Jews. So the rabbi's point makes sense.
Could I bring something up that you said before? You said never in our time did you see anyone do Baal Tshuva until to do like Kiruv sort of thing until Chabad, yeah?
Yeah.
So what about before the Hanukkah story, when the Jews were like converting to Hellenism, and then the Rabbanim went and brought them back to their way? What do you call that?
I think that's called historical revisionism, because that's not the Hanukkah story. Okay,
that's
Hanukkah
story before the Hanukkah story.
What are you talking about? You mean Ezra with Ezra?
During the Greeks, yeah.
That is the Hanukkah story. I mean, with the Syrian Greeks.
I never heard of Syrian Greeks, but
yeah, they're called Syrian Greeks. They were called Seleucids. They were called Tobiads. The Hanukkah story is religious Jews fighting secular Jews who were under the auspices of the Syrian Greeks. I mean, it's not us fighting and not reaching. For sure, there's no story about us ever reaching.
Yes, there is.
Because of DNA. There's no history of that, because Chazal would have viewed an unreligious Jew.
I have a book, but I can't get to it now. But I could definitely bring you the source for that. What?
I mean, with as much hatred that people talk against the Talmud, the rabbis in the Talmud were actually not racist. Okay, I mean, they saw the world.
You're the one that says it's racist.
What does racist mean to you?
You said Chazal is racist, but then you're saying that the Talmud is not racist.
I said Kabbalistic rabbis are racist, not Chazal. I mean, Chazal are rabbis in the Mishnah.
Rabbi Asher. So this existed even as an example, we can see in the time of Herod, he was treated the same way as you say Jews treat others today. He really wanted to be considered a Jew, and he wasn't accepted. That was the reason he built he overcompensated by building a huge temple and stuff like that. So it existed back then as well, right?
No, look, it's not the same. So, I mean, Herod was wicked. I mean, big time wicked. I mean, he unalived the vast majority of the sages. He was an Idumean. So he wasn't, like, his father was an Idumean, like, who converted. And then his mother, I think, was a straight Gentile. So he wasn't recognized in order to do, like, a temple service. And then they allowed him to do a service when he shouldn't have. And they say that's one of the reasons the temple was destroyed, because of Hanufa. That they flattered him. Right, but it wasn't because it was Jew versus Gentile. Convert. It says in the New Testament that the Jews back then would travel land and sea to make one proselyte. This notion of converts being praised was a big thing. It never said that they traveled through Greece, trying to find an unaffiliated Jew. Okay, because this idea, back then it seems that they were more progressive than today, that they didn't separate the world between people who had a Jewish DNA and those who didn't, but people who kept Torah and those who didn't, right? But nowadays we think we're smarter to ask people randomly who look Jewish, by the way, because groups like Chabad, they profile you. If you look Jewish, they'll go up to you and ask you, are you Jewish? What's your last name? But they don't ask you, like, if you want to keep Torah, and they give you special treatment. That's called bigotry. And that's not justified in the Talmud. It's not justified in the Torah. It's only justified in Kabbalah.
Isn't that because every time they did invite people to Judaism, it backfired?
No, of course not. When I would have better luck in building a religious community by randomly converting 1,000 Gentiles than reaching out to 100,000 secular Jews. Okay, as someone who works in outreach, and I worked in outreach in Jerusalem for 5 years, bringing birthright kids over to yeshiva programs, it's quite impossible to convince a secular Jew of anything, especially if he's an atheist.
Rabbi, why do you think it's not a mitzvah to proselytize?
It's not one of the 613 mitzvahs. Because these commandments...
Because I hear what you're saying, right? Just to preface that, obviously, one of the differences between Islam and Judaism, and that's the lens I'm looking at this, is that Islam